So now I've shown you how to make my almond tart crust for a dessert tart, but today I'm going to show you this really easy crust for a savory tart. And this goes against everything you've ever heard about making crusts, and it's just a no-fail, wonderful way to make a crust. So I have in here 1 cube of butter, and I'm going to add to that a 1/4 cup of water, a tablespoon of sugar, a 1/4 teaspoon of salt, and for this I think the flavor of just a little bit of freshly chopped thyme leaves is going to be really good in this with the onion tart. So I'm going to add that. And then we cook this until all the butter's melted. Oh, there's one more thing. I need a tablespoon of oil. And this would happen to be olive oil. Oh, Popeye! So now, we want to get this, okay, now the butter's melted all the way, and we want to see this bubbling, and it's going to bubble more than that. The bubbles are going to get bigger. And when we see the bubbles, we're almost there, almost there. You see how big they're getting, and now I think it's ready. We turn off the heat and we put in a 1.5 cups of flour and quickly just stir the whole thing. I tell you, I have never had this crust fail in any fashion. It's amazing to me. After all the hours I spent trying to keep dough cold and roll it out, and this just... Look at that. We've got a pie dough. So let's go put this in our pan, and then we'll wait for it to cool. And then we can spread it around in the pan. And that is the no-fail pie dough. So now our dough is cooled enough that we can move it around in the pan. Ooh, barely. Still a little warm. And this is again a very flexible dough, so you can put it where you want it. And I'm just going to try and get this initially here spread as evenly and as thinly as possible. And then again, we want to make sure it comes all the way up the side of the pan. This dough is it's nice that this is so easy to work with. You can fill in empty spots where it got too thin. You can take some from one place and put it in another. It's just a lovely dough to work with. And it always tries to collect right here at where the bottom meets the sides. So you have to give some attention to pushing that up. And this recipe will actually make a pie crust for a taller pie plate, so there's going to be some extra for this tart pan. All right, I think we're getting there. Break off the extra. Doesn't that look good?
Good job.
So, one thing I learned from last time, you'll remember the pie weights were brand new last time. Well, this is their second outing. So now I have a bigger piece of parchment paper. And we'll put the pie weights in.
Now, why do we use pie weights?
The pie weights will keep the dough in place and it will keep it from shrinking down the sides and keep the bottom from bubbling up. And with this many pie weights in here, there's really no place it can go. The other thing I learned last week using these pie weights is these ceramic weights hold a lot of heat, so there really is no need to take the weights out and cook the bottom more. The bottom is cooking just fine with the amount of heat these weights retain. So this is going to go into a 400-degree oven for 15 minutes and it'll be done. Okay, timer's going off. I bet our pie crust, tart crust, is done. So out it comes. And after having great difficulty getting the pie weights out of there, last week I used the larger parchment paper in the hopes that this would give me
You gather all the corners.
more
Oops, trying to help.
control over these weights as they come out. And look at this. Ta-da!
That was much better.
And there we have savory tart crust.
Look at that, that's beautiful.
Alright, so the next step in our onion tart is going to be to caramelize our onions. You will see I've taken those 4 Vidalia onions and I have cut them into very, very thin slices. I used the mandolin for this, and I didn't break any strings.
So hot.
We just tip the onions into the pan. It's a kind of a musician joke there.
Yeah, I got that.
This is going to cook down. It looks like an awful lot of onion. And if there's any left over when we go to fill the pan, we can use them for omelets.
Yeah.
Some other meal. They will not go to waste. These onions are just so sweet and delicious. We have high hopes for this. So we're going to start these cooking on kind of a medium heat until we get something going here. And then we're going to turn it down and we're going to let them just cook for about 45 minutes. And in that way we can get all the sugars to caramelize. So I'm also going to add just a little tiny bit of sugar. It's not much, that was less than a tablespoon. Some pepper. Freshly ground in this case, it wouldn't have to be, but I like being able to get some good sized chunks. And some salt. In this case, some Maldon salt. Now we've got it seasoned, and you can see it's starting to cook a little, getting some action. I want to kind of get these to, some of them to brown just a little bit before I turn the heat down. And I also want to get them all separated so they're not stuck together in a wob where only the outsides will cook.
Onion candy.
Yeah, it's a pile of onions there. So now we're getting something happening in here. It's starting to cook them up a little bit, and they're getting a little more relaxed. So now you can see a lot of moisture has come out of these. They're looking much more relaxed. So now I'm going to turn the heat down and cover them, and I'll come back and stir them occasionally, but this is going to cook on low heat now for about 45 minutes. So we're about halfway through our 45 minutes here, and I'm looking at this, and look how wet it is. It just, all that moisture came out of those onions, which is great. They're cooking well, but I think I'm going to cook it now with the lid off and see if we can get some of that moisture to reduce. That's looking really good though. Our big pile of onions is getting much smaller. So as you can see, our onions have really cooked down now. They're getting a little brown, they're sticky, they've got this nice caramelized thing going on. So we are going to take them and we're going to put them into a colander to drain, and just to get any extra moisture out of them that we can. And I like all this. We've got a bunch of stuff, browned bits in here, and I think I want to get them all, because I think there's going to be a lot of really good flavor in that. So we'll let those drain for a moment while we prepare our custard. So for our custard, we have 3 eggs, and I'm going to break those yolks, get those going a little bit. We're going to add 1.25 cups of heavy cream. Being a French dish, of course, you have to have as much fat in here as you possibly can get. So to that, we will add a little bit of black pepper, a little bit of salt, probably about 3/4 teaspoon, a pinch of nutmeg, a little goes a long way, and we have 1/3 cup or so of grated Gruyere cheese, and we're going to add about half of it at this point. Get it into the custard, and then we're going to use the other half on top when we put it in the tart shell. And I have fresh thyme and fresh tarragon from the garden that I've chopped up, and we're going to put those in. You know, I've tried growing tarragon here, both outdoors and indoors. Not a lot of success, and yesterday I discovered that there's a tarragon plant in the garden. And today the recipe, one of the suggestions was add a little tarragon. I'm like, yeah, I can do that. So I was pretty thrilled. So we just want this mixed up well. And then we're going to add our onions to this mixture. And I don't think a whisk is going to be a very good tool at that point. So I'm going to try and get this out of here. And bring the onions over, having drained them, and just straight into the bowl they go. And as you get the oven started, this is going to bake at 375. that going. Mix this thoroughly here so we get an even distribution when we put it in our tart shell. So onions kind of want to lump together. And okay, I think that's looking pretty good. In we go. And this is where we find out if there's too much, we're of course going to overflow, so it behooves us to be a little careful. I think we're going to be fine here. That looks pretty darn full to me. I think we'll leave it right there. And this will go into the oven at 375 for about 45 minutes, and we'll see what it looks like at that time. Okay, so it's almost 45 minutes. We're at 43 and a half, and this puppy looks done. Look at that. That is beautiful. So we can get it onto the cooling rack. Oh, look at that. Yeah. That is our Alsatian Onion Tart. All right, so it's time to see what this bad boy tastes like. I like to use this knife because I can get all the way across a tart in one swell foop, and it doesn't make the crust come apart. Kelly thinks this is a really dumb knife to use for this job, but I just love the way it crunches through the crust straight down, and then when you draw it through, it just, oh, it's so smooth.
That's how it is with a prime rib too.
Well, this, yeah, this is actually a meat knife. That's why she thinks it's really dumb to use on a quiche, which I would agree.
My dad's rolling over in his grave
I just
right
like
now.
it. I don't have to apologize for liking something.
Well,
And you shouldn't either.
okay, fingers crossed it comes out smoothly.
You know, dumb knife and all. Look at that. That's a beauty. That is a beauty. This one's going to be even prettier. Wow.
Must be my piece.
That should be your piece, I guess. Oh man. And then let's have some chive flowers on the plate. It's great when you can break this up into the little individual flowers. Just so pretty. Get some on Kelly's piece here. Placed just so.
Oh my gosh, my
And
mouth
then-
is watering.
A sprig of thyme laid gently across it, and there you have it.
Okay, have a bite.
Well, unfortunately, we didn't bring any forks.
I know. I don't know who plans this stuff out.
It's like bringing a
Okay.
spoon to a fork fight. Oh, wait. Something.
Here he goes, going in for the bite.
Oh, this was yours. I guess you have to take this.
You can eat mine, I'm gonna eat yours.
Wow. Okay, that's really something. It's a real super sweet onion flavor, and the custard is really loose. You know, it's holding its shape, but wow, it's really delicious. Sometimes you can overcook these, and the custard comes out really dry and hard. This custard is super loose and moist and tasty. And
I'm trying to give signals.
Kelly's trying to tell me something, but she
Well,
won't
it's
say
the
it,
end. So thank you for watching Two Cooks in the Kitchen, even though I spend most of my time back here yelling into the mic of the camera. But thanks to Matthew for coming up with this recipe for us.